blinding diseases at fighting.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio, rooted in Lakota aesthetics of geometry, color, and pattern. Diani Whitehawk's abstractions are rich in meaning, honoring generations of Native artists. Explore her wide-ranging practice, including vivid beading paintings, sculptures, and video installations, and Diani Whitehawk's love language. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. Plan your visit and get tickets at walkerart.org.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Rebuilding Together Minnesota provides critical home repairs and safety modifications at no cost to low-income homeowners, with a focus on supporting BIPOC communities across Minnesota, because everyone deserves a safe place to live. If repairs feel out of reach, help is available. Their work helps older adults stay independent, support families, and strengthens neighborhoods. Apply during the application window through March 31st. Visit rtmn.org and select Apply for Help, or call 651-776-4273. Rebuilding Together Minnesota, where neighbors help neighbors. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Diani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. An extreme cold warning is in effect. Tonight, clear with a low of 15 below, wind chills down to 42 below zero. Then Friday, cold sunshine with a high of 6 below, wind chills of 40 below. The Great Wall Restaurant has been your go-to for Chinese favorite since 1981. Located on France Avenue along the Minneapolis-Edina City line near 50th Street. GreatWallRestaurant.us.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, we're going to start off right away and get our friend Robert Lilligren on, who's President Chief Executive Officer at Native American Community Development Institute. And Robert is enrolled at the White Earth Ojibwe Nation. He served 12 years as vice president of the Minneapolis City Council and the first tribal member elected to public office in the city of Minneapolis. So I have to read your bio every once in a while, Robert, because it's very impressive. And we always have a bunch of listeners that are just coming on for the first time. So thank you so much, as always, for being here.
Yeah, bonjour, Robert. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
A lot going on, and I was down at Powwow Grounds in Franklin Avenue yesterday, and Native American Community Development Institute is right on ground zero, and you guys are taking care of the community, and a lot going on there. So again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, again, miigwech, and it's been quite a week here. And for folks who aren't from here, our organization, Native American Community Development Institute, or NAADI, we own a little yellow building on the American Indian Cultural Corridor, which is East Franklin. It houses significantly right now Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop and the All My Relations Arts Gallery. And since this, what they're calling the surge, this increase in ICE presence, following the ICE murder of a resident here, Renee Good, our little building has become the headquarters of what we call the protectors. And so the Indigenous Protector Movement, American Indian Movement, Women's Warrior Society, Many Shields Society, incredible number of volunteers have all kind of converged on our building. Our gallery is their headquarters. The Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop and the owner, Bob Rice, are keeping the protectors fed. There's a spirit fire going in our parking lot around the clock, ceremony frequently. And it's just a hub of activity to protect our relatives, both native and non-native.
Yeah, I know. New York Times is there. There's all these media groups that are out there reporting stuff, and it brings me back to George Floyd and Standing Rock and all the things that Native American Community Development Institute and our community has been standing for, and it's proud to see all that action going on there, Robert.
I am proud to see the way the community's responded, and it feels most like the civil unrest following George Floyd, right? And we didn't expect that. We knew something was going to happen, right? But the city just blew up. And right there on the American Indian Cultural Corridor, we came together as a community, and we decided, rather than fortifying, using physical fortifications, boarding up our buildings and such to protect them, that we would use our people. And we rapidly organized with the support of the American Indian Movement, revered elders and leaders like Mike Gozi in the community, and started doing a very coordinated patrol and protection of our native people and our assets, but also our non-native neighbors and their assets. And it was incredible. I fully expected East Franklin to burn, much like Lake Street did, which is less than a mile south of East Franklin Avenue. And the extent of the damage through all the rioting was one broken window on the cultural corridor. And for many of us, for me, it was just an affirmation and a huge growth and awareness of how powerful we are when we come together as people, express our Indigenous values of caring for each other, and how effective we are. And so this time, I will say, we were much more prepared. So far, knock wood, things have remained peaceful mostly, and there's a strong understanding that if this turns violent, it's catastrophic for us, right? And that the Trump administration is just looking for more reason to send more military here. And I'm not 100% sure why Minneapolis and Minnesota is now on the front lines of the resistance, but we are, and we're up for it. But it's weird. And Vice President Vance was here today and spewing incredibly inaccurate data. And I guess, what do they call them? Alternative facts? Isn't that what the
that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, right. And asking for cooperation of the locals and of local law enforcement when they don't share any information. Our local law enforcement has no clue what's really going on, and yet we're supposed to somehow cooperate. This is supposed to be a collaboration. Residents here are told to comply. Residents here are showing up in tens of thousands to peacefully protest, to observe, and in a very well-trained and organized manner. And this is kind of freaking out the feds, And so they say, "Oh, you're so organized here, like it's a bad thing, right?" And and it's grim. And Robert, you mentioned the media attention, and there's New York Times. There's small local community media. I talked to a reporter from a small community in northern Wisconsin, but there's a surprising amount of international media, right?
Mhm.
UK, Italy, Germany, France, they're here as well, and they find their way to All My Relations Arts Gallery and to Powell Grounds because that's where it's happening.
Mhm.
It's happening throughout the community, but there's just such a density of activity there, and I think this is good. They're very respectful as a whole. But it's good for us to get our story out there, right? I don't think
Mhm.
if we're not here, I think it's hard to believe how bad it really is.
Right. Right, and that's people coming in too to support the communities too. I saw a couple people from Wisconsin that were being interviewed on I think the old MSNBC, and they wanted to come here and watch, and they were like right in the middle of something when they were being interviewed. I got to just say we only got like a couple minutes here left in this segment. You know, today JD Vance Native Roots Radio calls what they had was a Klan rally, and to fire up the troops and
Yeah.
spew out all this misinformation. I mean, I want to really focus on us here in the Twin Cities, but my goodness, what's going on with the orange one and his mental health going down the tubes, and the world government's laughing at us. And
Right. That was painful to watch the economic summit in Switzerland and how embarrassing our president is. And yeah, but I would rather focus here as well because there's a lot going on here, and really maybe in our next segment we can talk about the intense tribal involvement and tribal leadership, and tribal governments are coming not just from all around Minnesota, all around the country here, which is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like this here. So there are good things happening in the midst of all this chaos and crisis.
Exactly, and we had that taste at Standing Rock with all those. I think almost every tribe was. Almost every tribe was there at Standing Rock, and I feel like the tribes across the country are seeing what's happening, and especially with our BIPOC and our brown relatives and our Native relatives.
Right.
Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and here with Robert Lilligren, President and Chief Executive Officer of Native American Community Development Institute. We'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Diani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Rebuilding Together Minnesota provides critical home repairs and safety modifications at no cost to low-income homeowners, with a focus on supporting BIPOC communities across Minnesota, because everyone deserves a safe place to live. If repairs feel out of reach, help is available. Their work helps older adults stay independent, support families, and strengthens neighborhoods. Apply during the application window through March 31st. Visit rtmn.org and select Apply for Help, or call 651-776-4273. Rebuilding Together Minnesota, where neighbors help neighbors. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Diani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and I want to be your next United States Senator, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. I am here with Robert Lilligren, CEO and President of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and we're talking about being on ground zero. One thing I wanted to amplify what you said about all these nations coming here, tribal nations coming here, and I see that, and I was on the Avenue yesterday, and I saw Mike Gozy too. I saw you.
Yeah.
People. That I went to the Indian Center too, and there was a nation there that was waiting for tribal members to come, and if they needed a tribal ID to take care of them. And Minneapolis Indian Center has reached out to all nations to come on down and help their relatives, because there's a statistic I learned at Met Council, Robert, about how many Native Americans are in Minneapolis and how many different nations are not recognized but are here.
Right, in the Twin Cities area, right? So that's a 7-county metro area, Minneapolis, St. Paul. The surrounding communities, there are 150 different tribes represented in our population here, so that's vast. And at the Minneapolis American Indian Center, right there in the cultural corridor, the director there, Mary Lagarde, my White Earth sister, has really opened it up. And there's sort of almost like a different nation every day that comes down. The big push is to get tribal IDs and paperwork into people's hands. Not that ICE is really respecting those, but it's something, right? But it's been really amazing. And today at the Indian Center, there were elected leaders from the Navajo Nation, because they have citizens that live here, right? And so they're concerned about the safety of their citizens. And, folks know that relationships between urban Indian communities and reservation-based communities aren't always that warm. And people like us have been working for decades to improve that. And it has improved. And I would say one of the things that really moved the dial there, and since Standing Rock, was here, we had an enormous homeless encampment that was predominantly Native people back in 2018. We call it the Wall of Forgotten Natives. It was this 300 tent community along this crappy little stretch of public right-of-way on the side of a highway. Not fit for human habitation, but our relatives and unsheltered relatives took a stand there and became very visible. And that kind of moved the dial, and that brought a fair amount of tribal interest from inside the state. But this is something that's just really advancing the presence of tribal leadership. And I'm an optimist, I know that, and even though it's really grim and freezing cold here right now, I know that there'll be a day after, right? There'll be a day after tomorrow. And so what are some of the things that are moving during this crisis that we can continue to leverage into improving our relatives' lives here after this? And I think this relationship with tribal communities is one of those things.
Yeah, wow, here. Hey, one of the things I wanted to bring up too, Robert, well, first, before I get into this, I want you to be able to give a shout out to our friend Powwow Grounds and how people can support Powwow Grounds, whether you go on their Facebook page, but donate money, because as I was there, I saw that there was food going both directions, people picking up food and people delivering food, and also food for the warriors and coffee and people donating money too.
Right. And so Bob Rice, the owner of Powwow Grounds, and his staff have just done heroic work keeping people fed and putting out a lot. And you're right, it takes resources, right? It takes money to do that. And so people can go directly to the Powwow Grounds website, just Google it, or the Facebook page. There's a giving link there. And also I would urge people to look to what's called the Indigenous Protector Movement. Google that. The Indigenous Protector Movement is the hub of coordinating the protectors here. If people want to give to some of the local Native nonprofits, you can go to the Metropolitan Urban Indian Director's website. It's MUID is the acronym. So it's MUIDMN.org, and you'll see a whole list of some 36 metro area organizations. And if you're interested in supporting, say, our unsheltered relatives, you can see who's doing that, contribute directly there. And one of the orgs that's really stepping up, and right now, I said it's really cold right now. It feels like temperature outdoors of -22, and it's going to get colder through the weekend and into next week. And so those who lack shelter, our relatives who lack shelter, are really endangered. And so one organization in particular, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, MIWRC, they are really stepping up and create just opening space, right? Just to get people inside so they don't freeze to death. And so that would be another worthy cause. But part of it, we're very organized as a community in expressing the Indigenous values of care for our relatives, Native and non-Native. And so we redeploy our resources as rapidly as we can to do that. And I think it might sometimes give the impression that we have a lot of resources, right? we're dramatically under-resourced, but we're willing. This is how we express our values, and this is how we care for our relatives, right? And so we need resources. And then to your point about there's donations coming in of all kinds, right? One of the big concerns is that people are afraid to leave their homes. So they're going to be going hungry. They're going to be running out of supplies. So through Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors, MUID or MUD, we are funding a food coordinator, donations coordinator. And so we've mapped out the resources, who has warehouse space, who has cold storage space, who has vehicles that can deliver food, and how we can better coordinate all that. And it's going pretty well. I mean, people are suffering here, and it's a concern, and we're doing our best to care for our relatives.
Here. Wow. That was a mouthful. And hopefully what we can do towards the end of the show too, Robert, is bring up those groups again for people that are driving or whatever, and they can pull over and write these down, because it's very imperative that we do that. So one of the things let's bring this up right away. There's a special election in Maplewood. Our sister Shelley Buck, everyone get out there that's listening to this. I wanted to bring that up. That's happening January 27th. And then I wanted to talk about tomorrow. And tomorrow is, I'm going back and forth about going because to the march. And tomorrow also is a day in Minnesota, and other places are recognizing this across the country, is the Ice Out of Minnesota. A day of truth and freedom, and no work, no school, no shopping. And then there's a march down at 2 p.m. downtown Minneapolis. I'm getting up there in age, but I'm just one of the last times I can do stuff like this.
Right. So tomorrow, January 23rd, and this sounds like such an old-fashioned term, but like a general strike, right? And NAADI's closing. Most of the Native orgs are closing. It's supposed to be no work, no school, no spending day, and just to feel that impact here. And there's the march downtown. There's a planned community level march that Indigenous Peoples Task Force and their Leader Sharon Day we're coordinating. But again, it's going to be historically cold. It's going to be maybe up to 40 below wind chills here. So I think that might have an impact. But the point of it is not to work, not to go to school, not to spend money. And so you can do that right at home, right? But it's important to show that kind of solidarity. I'm tempted to get bundled up and to go to one of the events, maybe the more community-based one. But I'm like you. I'm an old man, right? I'm elder now, and I don't know how much longer I can do this. And yesterday I was in the NAADI office, which is right inside the Power Grounds and All My Relations Arts building. And I was meeting with a national leader of Native Organizers Alliance, Judith LeBlanc, and just brilliant leader. And she's been a huge and important mentor to me for a while. over a decade, and we're just kind of plotting out or strategizing about the upcoming midterm elections, because a lot of us feel like this whole federal initiative is in part designed to suppress votes or even take control of the elections. And so we're having to strategize around things like voter protection at the polling place. Well, we've never had to do that before, so there's all these new efforts with Judith, maybe even a couple of years older than us. And she said, yeah, I'm not out in the streets. I'm an old woman now, and I can't run that fast. And, I've done my part, and I feel like, maybe I have done my part. I've certainly been out on the streets, thousands of hours in my life. And it's time for younger people to step in, and man, they are.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that has been really affirming and maybe even gratifying through this is to watch these next generation leaders step in. And they're the ones that are propelling this movement. They're the ones who are organizing it. They're the ones who are keeping it peaceful, prayerful. And it's been super rewarding to see that. I can see in the long run, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking Madonna Thunderhawk's been on my show many times, and she was saying that, we didn't wear ribbon skirts back in the day because, she was all the way to Alcatraz to Line 3 and Wounded Knee. Said we were running from the police all the time. We couldn't wear ribbon skirts. I don't know what made me think of that. But, but hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're with Robert Lilligren, and we're right back after this short break. Stay with us. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio, rooted in Lakota aesthetics of geometry, color, and pattern. Deani Whitehawk's abstractions are rich in meaning, honoring generations of Native artists. Explore her wide-ranging practice, including vivid beading paintings, sculptures, and video installations, and Deani Whitehawk's love language. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. Plan your visit and get tickets at walkerart.org.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Rebuilding Together Minnesota provides critical home repairs and safety modifications at no cost to low-income homeowners, with a focus on supporting BIPOC communities across Minnesota, because everyone deserves a safe place to live. If repairs feel out of reach, help is available. Their work helps older adults stay independent, support families, and strengthens neighborhoods. Apply during the application window through March 31st. Visit rtmn.org and select Apply for Help, or call 651-776-4273. Rebuilding Together Minnesota, where neighbors help neighbors.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Pretty much everybody I talk to is ready to leave 2025 behind, so what better way to do that than quite literally have Zero Res come over and clean that 2025 dirt out of the house. Pretty much any surface in your home can be Zero Resified, from carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, hardwood, and so much more. Zero Res can take care of it all, so it's time to call the cleaning pros. Start your freshest year yet in 2026 with Zero Res's biggest sale ever in celebration of the new year, and wash 2025 right out of your home with this deal. This month, you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 and a free hallway, plus 15% off regularly priced services like air ducts, upholstery, area rugs, tile, hardwood, and more. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Are you planning a gathering for your family, friends, or work? Then reserve space at the Park Tavern. The Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces, and they can accommodate any size party, large or small. They have bowling, food, and beverage packages for any budget. And remember, there are no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. And for more information or to schedule an event, call 952-929-6810 or go to parktavern.net. Make your next get-together the best get-together with help from the Park Tavern.
The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Diani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist. The exhibition celebrating Whitehawk closes on February 15th, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilligren. An extreme cold warning is in effect. Tonight, clear with a low of 15 below, wind chills down to 42 below zero. Then Friday, cold sunshine with a high of 6 below, wind chills of 40 below. Go Dog Go, Vay opens this week at Children's Theater Company. Get tickets today for this joyful bilingual musical. That's childrenstheater.org.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, before I get back with Robert Lilligren, I just want to read this real quick. Vance was here, and the building he was meeting at is called Royalston Square. It's owned by Entourage Events, and who also own a concert venue here called the Armory. So let them know what you think of their planned clan meeting, and their phone number is 612-564-3777. That's 612-564-3777. Really disgusting. And the old saying, Roberts, you got to follow the money. And my goodness,
right.
It's a treacherous trail many times.
Right. Before the vice president spoke at this venue, and I agree 100%, and I've seen that call go out to contact the venue owners and operators, and I think that's a great idea. So thanks for plugging that. And so he was, before Vance got here, he was saying he was going to meet with community members before he addressed the public. And of course, there's nobody I know that he met with, but it was business leaders. And I will say, for the most part, the corporate level business leaders have been distressingly quiet about this when it's their workforces that are being impacted and their customer base. But we're hearing distressingly little from that community. But I wanted to point out, while we're kind of in this realm, we're talking about this, that you talk a lot about the Walker Arts Center. And as you know, and I don't know if I knew this, I'm actually on the board of the Walker Arts Center. I'm a trustee there. And it's a large and very important arts institution here, one of the leading, especially in the region, contemporary arts. Our sister Diani Whitehawk has a show there right now that's really significant, and if you're able, I'd encourage you to go there. The Walker Arts Center will be closed tomorrow to recognize this.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And, I see places like Pizza Luce,
right.
My favorite place, the Neighborhood Cafe, is going to be closed in solidarity. It's upside down world. And, what we're seeing nationally is how proud, at least, when you listen to MSNBC and the broadcasts that are on AM 950 and civic media, how proud they are because they're paying attention to our communities and how they're standing up. And I'm pleasantly surprised because I'm used to just having natives protest. So getting all these other people out here has been fabulous.
Yeah, I agree. And it's beautifully organized. We need to get that story out. We need to tell our stories and steer our own narratives here. And so I'm kind of pleased with the media attention. And I will say, again, the respect that they're showing. And the other day, I was out by the Spirit Fire in our parking lot, and television station, a major one, and with their camera man, both white people and non-native, and they were being so respectful and asking what they could and couldn't put on camera. And then the reporter asked the crowd if there was someone who would go on camera for an interview, and one of the protectors went on camera, and I was busy with something else while he was being interviewed, but I didn't hear it. But after the interview and the camera was down and the reporter was leaving, and she said something, like, keep up your fight or something like that. She said as she was leaving in the interview, the protector immediately responded, "It's your fight too." And I thought, wow, that was really a good, quick, profound response. But it's true. It's all of our fights. If they're coming for us today, they'll come for you tomorrow. And these guys have no hesitation. They now claim they don't need a judicial warrant to enter a property. They just need a warrant that they sign. And now they're breaking down doors for that. They're breaking windows. They're pulling people out of homes, out of cars. They detained a 5-year-old child this week, a boy returning from school. And then they tried to use him as bait to get family members out of his house before detaining him. So they put him in detention. And one of their strategies is they have planes on the runway at Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport, and they fill them off and they whisk these people off to Texas right away before attorneys can even apply for a writ of habeas corpus and trying to get these people released. They're gone. They disappeared. And then they have to locate the people. They have to file for the writ in Texas, which complicates things. So this 5-year-old child was detained and sent to Texas immediately. And so I don't know if they even know where he is. Yeah, but there's really sad pictures. I would advise people to go to maybe Minnesota Public Radio, NPR News. They're doing very good coverage. Our biggest daily, the Star Tribune, more local news platform, Bring Me the News. These are credible news sources that are publishing these things. And if people haven't been following along, I don't think you're going to believe what you see. We are under full occupation here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota.
Yeah. And, things are happening. And one of the things I want to mention too, if you are interested, there's a website called iceout.org that you can go on there and see where people are reporting seeing ice. And I think there's 4 different categories. One, and then some of them have to be second that somebody else saw too. So there is different degrees, but you'll see Minnesota and especially the Twin Cities just full of these reports. And we even see them on outstate. I see St. Cloud. I see places like that where they're around. And, when I was leaving the powwow grounds, I saw one flying down Franklin.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God, what?
Right, and they're adapting and refining their tactics. They're getting harder. They're not doing things on major streets like Franklin. They're going into the off streets to do their actions where there are fewer people to observe. The last wave of ICE and Border Patrol agents that they brought in, it's much more diverse. A lot more women. They're dressing not in camo, but in like flannel shirts. On their rented vehicles, they're putting like pride stickers or family kind of friendly stickers to better fit in. And they're getting much more savvy as this goes on, and it makes it more difficult. And one of my big questions, Robert, is why here? We're a tiny state. Texas has 2.1 million undocumented immigrants. Florida has 1.6 million undocumented immigrants. Here in Minnesota, we have something like 130,000. So if you're seriously considering Border Patrol enforcement, go to the states where this is the bigger issue. Here, it's not a big issue. This is not about immigration, and everyone who thinks it is wrong.
It's the Department of Justice is called the Department of Revenge now, and that's why they're here. And we know that. I saw a great social media post by somebody, and basically they said why they're attacking us is because things in this state work well,
right,
and work well for our people that need help in the community, and everybody. And that's why they're attacking us, because of how well this state really works, Robert.
I agree. And it's unfortunate, but that's the attitude at the federal administration. And we do work really well. And by so many indicators, and we don't talk about this enough. It's not very Minnesotan to sort of brag or anything. But by almost every indicator, we are a leading state. We're high in income, education, health, all of these areas.
500 companies.
Yeah,
500.
And I think that's part of what annoys this Trump administration is that we're succeeding. But I think you hit on it as well, Robert, that we take care of our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have robust social services. We have universal free lunch in our schools. We take care of our people, and especially our most needy, which I think that's what we're here to do. And I think that's government at its best. That pisses off this administration. So they have to punish us for that. And then the other piece, and it was really interesting, Robert, when Renee Good was murdered and things really ramped up, and the community was coming together. All communities were to figure out how to keep people safe and how to protect ourselves. And in the Native community, as we met, I really thought we would be needing to protect our darker skinned relatives who may look more like immigrants or something. And we have a lot of mixed backgrounds, like me, mixed Native and European, but we have a lot of mixed Native and Latino, Native and Black. And I thought, okay, that's going to be, our focus of protection. And it took me a couple days to realize, no, they're targeting Native people. The Native people are a target, and we're the least things like immigrants in this country, right? And we're a target. And so that's made me think, and I'm more and more thinking around this idea that it's our sovereignty that they're attacking. It's, they don't have jurisdiction on sovereign lands. They don't have, as much jurisdiction over sovereign people. But even in the state of Minnesota, they're attacking the sovereignty of the state of Minnesota. And so that's what I think, in my thinking now, is that's the thrust of this activity.
Yeah, well, and we mentioned this yesterday with Mayor Fry, that part of the deal too is now the government wants to take over boundary waters. Now, no one should be happy with that. People living up there, no matter if they voted for Trump or not, should not be happy with that. We see what all this minerals, and I mean, he wants to go after foreign countries with minerals, and it's just, I don't want to get into that, but you know what I mean.
No, I think you need to get into it, right? Because a lot of reservations have incredible mineral deposits and other commodity type resources. And for folks who don't know, boundary waters is a part of the state that's between here, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Canada. It's pristine, right? And people really protect it, and it's a big draw for tourists, with a lot of regulations about being a tourist there, and and there's a lot of minerals there, right?
Yeah.
So there's to seize those.
Yeah, I just didn't want to talk federally. We can definitely talk about our tribal nations out there. But hey, we're with Robert Lilligren, CEO and president of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and pretty much in ground zero in Minneapolis. So we're going to talk more and bring up again how you can reach out all over Turtle Island to help out organizations here at ground zero. We'll be right back after the show break. The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Diani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org. Rebuilding Together Minnesota provides critical home repairs and safety modifications at no cost to low-income homeowners, with a focus on supporting BIPOC communities across Minnesota, because everyone deserves a safe place to live. If repairs feel out of reach, help is available. Their work helps older adults stay independent, support families, and strengthens neighborhoods. Apply during the application window through March 31st. Visit rtmn.org and select Apply for Help, or call 651-776-4273. Rebuilding Together Minnesota, where neighbors help neighbors.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
The Walker Arts Center is a proud supporter of Native Roots Radio. Visit Deani Whitehawk, Love Language, an exhibition that celebrates the Sichangu Lakota artist. The exhibition celebrating Whitehawk closes on February 15th, centered on connection between one another, past and present, earth and sky, and traditions of Lakota abstraction. Love Language is a sweeping survey of Whitehawk's work. The Walker is always free on Thursday nights, and citizens and members of tribal nations always get free admission. More info at walkerart.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are here with Robert Lilligren, our friend and president and CEO of Native American Community Development Institute, NAADI. How did I do?
Very good.
Yeah, and we're doing a whole show here, and I really appreciate this, Robert, because again, you know what's going on, and you're plugged in. I was out of town for 6 days, 5 days, and had to use the airport, and you know, there's ICE agents there that, like you said earlier, that are not wearing their garb; they're wearing their little baseball caps, and it was really weird because I was looking around, and you know, I think people with that, you know, were with couples or were with some people weren't ICE agents, but geez, they blended right in. It was crazy.
That's their strategy now, to blend in. And yeah, and I'm supposed to be in Puerto Vallarta right now, and it would have been great to miss this freezing cold weather, but I just didn't feel comfortable leaving. Not so much because I felt like I was physically threatened. I present very white, you know, but because I just couldn't leave here. Something really blew up and happened. I could never forgive myself if I were away, but yeah, it's having all kinds of impacts, right?
Yeah, crazy. I wonder if you don't mind giving out the information again, how people across the country and listen to Native Roots Radio or watch us on all our social medias can reach out and help and help out, because people are helping, but we need more help.
We do need help, and it's bad. And so there's a number of places right now, especially if you're from out of the area. Financial contributions are really welcomed. We have a fairly robust network if we need baby formula or diapers or food for families. We're putting together a rapid response distribution for that, and thank you. The mudmn.org/donate that my colleague Alexander Buffalo had just posted. So it's muidmn.org/donate. That's a place that is a collaboration of some 36 Native organizations here, and so you can give there, and that will be then sort of reallocated to the appropriate place. You can also give at our organization, Native American Community Development Institute, NAADI.org, and we are the fiscal agent for the Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors, or for MUD. If you do that, please, it would be good to have a note that says this is for the ICE response or for the protectors. If you want to give directly to one of the organizations, I would recommend 3 ways to give. One is directly to Powwow Grounds, which is Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop. And if you want to give there, I would recommend going through their Facebook, because they have their donation link right on their Facebook page. So that's Powwow Grounds on Facebook. Another place to give is the Indigenous Protector Movement, and you can just search for that. And at the bottom of their landing page, they have their donation link. and they're really leading the effort to coordinate these protectors activities. And then the other one I would really lift up is Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center. Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, MWRC. And they're just doing incredible on-the-ground work to keep especially our unhoused relatives safe. And like I said earlier, it's not like we have all the money in the world, but we value caring for our relatives and caring for our neighbors, our relatives, whether they're Native or not. And so that takes resources, and we're all doing our best.
You know, Robert, I always, and it's weird, I don't always ask you this, but how are you taking care of yourself? Because we do talk about it with Heather and
Right.
I don't know, other people that come on regularly, and I think it's important to talk about how you're taking care of yourself.
You know, I appreciate that question. I will say that this round of crisis, I've seen pretty much everybody making effort to take care of themselves, right? And we've talked about this before at NAADI. We have an approach where we take care of ourselves first, then our families, then our community. It's been a very successful and Indigenous approach at our organization, but I've seen that more, and even some of the people who are in the thick of it, like people like Vin Dion and his wife Rachel Dion Thunder, who are founders and leaders within the Indigenous Protector movement. You know, even then, they have a little daughter, and so one of them goes home and takes care of the family while one of them's out. And a lot of the people who I don't normally see sort of resting and taking care of themselves, people like the incredible leader Jolene Jones, who lives in Little Earth of United Tribes here. She leads NAADI's Make Voting a Tradition, and she's been deploying her army of canvassers and organizers to support the effort. She's been going home and taking care of herself. I think we've learned this, right? And we don't know. I keep saying this is a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to take care of ourselves. I mean, we're seeing all over people getting sick, right? People are just kind of dropping because they're pushing themselves too hard. But for the most part, I would say we've learned something here. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't serve the community. So specifically to your question, you know, I stayed home today and worked from home. I was engaged on Zoom meetings and calls, but I wasn't out in the cold, and I wasn't being exposed to a bunch of stuff. Tomorrow we'll see. It's the sort of the no work, no school, no shop day, but I have a couple meetings I got to do. I'll probably engage in at least one community activity, but just taking that time and finding that ease and realizing we're in this together, right? And that hundreds and hundreds of people are stepping forward in the Native community to do this work, and tens of thousands of people are stepping forward in the broader community to peacefully protest, to observe, so I kind of get this vibe that at least the people I see are taking better care of themselves this round than in the past.
You know, one of the things, too, I wanted to remind everyone of how terrible of a year. You were talking about why they're picking on Minnesota, but how terrible of a year we've had with murders at school, murder, for our Representative Portman and her family and her dog. And it's just been 2025, and this is the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. It's just been heart-wrenching.
Right. It has been. And I'm glad you could have put that into all that context, because it's been a hard year. I would say, from what I'm seeing, it's made us stronger, right? It's made us more prepared. In some ways, I think it's made us almost more, and I hope this doesn't sound ironic, but almost more peaceful in our response, right? And we need to be. And it's getting hard here. It's getting harder to kind of keep your cool. This is really stressful and draining, but I think almost everyone, it seems like, is really making an effort to put care and peace and love forward. And it's getting rough. It's getting rough here, and I won't deny it, but we need to remain peaceful. The federal administration wants us to burst into violence. We're getting very good at neutralizing outside agitators before they can act and blow it all up. And so I guess if there's a closing message for me, it's love each other.
Yeah. Well, Robert, thank you so much for being
pleasure.
on. And, this was a great conversation. The hour flew really fast, and all the information you had, our listeners are really appreciated, and I appreciate it and appreciate you and everybody that's boots on the ground. And stay safe, and we'll see you soon. This is third week of we don't know how long, but we're going to be here, and we're going to be trying to get out the information. Right on. Right on, Robert. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plenty Coops, the ground in which we stand on its sacred ground. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Resist, everybody. The Walker Arts Center is a proud